anything. Here we're going to see 24 booster packs of beta opened, and as for as grizzled as I am as a Magic player, this is still something that gets me pretty excited.
There you see the players sitting down, getting their white gloves on, enjoying it. And this is going to be very exciting. I can't wait to watch. I mean, anything can happen here. What's the craziest pack you remember opening when you first started playing Magic?
I won an unlimited starter deck in a tournament at a comics convention once and opened that up. I was so excited. And my rares were Kudzu, which is another card we might see here, a green enchantment that blows up lands, and Nevinral's Disc.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
A powerhouse.
Yeah, really strong card in limited, obviously.
Oh, man, do you think a JM Day Tome could get open? That's a pretty
that's
exciting
an uncommon.
That is a pretty
No, that's a rare. You're right.
That was
we have since made it uncommon. It started out as a rare.
Yep. That is one of the most exciting cards in old school these days.
And as we mentioned before, because of these games could grind down a little bit, there's not that many ways to blast through. Things like the Hive, things like JM Day Tome, they can provide repetitive advantage over multiple turns. Players are going to have some time to kind of activate them and get a lot of value, so we might see one of them have quite a big impact.
And I think based on what we're talking about this, the dynamics of a Rochester draft, if you're opening a pack, you probably want to open an artifact, right? You probably want to have something like the Hive or something like
Juggernaut,
a Juggernaut.
Honestly, I would settle for a Mox Sapphire if I was in the draft right now, if I couldn't get one of those.
And the thing is, we could see that. Yep. And, Luis Scott Vargas has done just about everything there is to do in this game. Played in about just every kind of tournament for every possible stakes. And he was on the air yesterday, I think, with Daily Sports, and said this was possibly the tournament he was most excited to play in his Magic career.
See, look how excited they are. A lot of these guys, there are 3 Hall of Famers at the table, and they're giggling.
Luis looks like the guy at the pawn shop ready to take a look at your family jewels. Yeah.
There you see Hemant Patel, Martin Yuza, Tim Rivera. I believe that might have been Matthew Gosler there. I'm not familiar with him. Players are getting very close. There's some announcements in the hall.
We're going to get a note here quickly as to who's going to get to open the first pack.
Okay. So the way the numbers 1 through 8 don't necessarily indicate who is going to be the first person to open. When we looked at the bracket.
But maybe. No, it is.
Oh, yeah, it is. So it is. Okay. So
Ian Suzuki is the lucky gentleman who'll get to open the first one of these packs.
Martin Yuza is in the third seat that you talked about, and that's a key seat in Rochester draft in terms of being able to really find a good spot for yourself in the draft.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. What are those?
All right, so 2 Mercfolk Tricksters. Yep.
I'm not saying it's better than not.
Okay. The players are getting a little rehearsal on how they can pick these cards up. Again,
wearing the cotton gloves.
These are pack fresh. They came out of a box at the Wizards warehouse.
They came out of a sarcophagus from ancient Egypt. That's basically what it feels like.
Oh boy.
Cormus Bell. There's our first rare, Cormus Bell. So that's a 4-mana artifact that makes all swamps into 1/1s.
Gloom. Is that Jade Idol?
That is Jade.
Fireball.
Well, that's a very splashable first pick. You see 2 islands, a mountain.
Paralyze,
really strong removal spell.
That's a removal spell for sure, although maybe not as much in a... Wow,
so there's the 4 lands we talked about.
Fog, a card we saw played in Modern yesterday.
So, Fireball certainly by far the best card in Limited.
And pretty hard.
That's Jade Statue, I believe.
It is the Jade Statue, okay.
Which it becomes a 3/6 during combat, is that correct? There also is Jade Idol, so
that's why I wasn't sure. I remember Jade Statue being a little more aggressive there, but this is the Jade Statue.
Right, so this one, we've printed this one in the past decade at some point, but it becomes a 3/6 for 2 mana. You turn it into a 3/6 for the duration of combat,
or the current attack exchange.
Okay, there you go.
An entire phase had to be created for this card because the way it was originally worded, there was no opportunity to pay that 2 mana. So they created something called the Jade Statue phase.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Now we have beginning of combat. Fireball is
that your pick, Paul? Fireball.
Yeah, for sure, Fireball. I mean, we talked about there are a few cards like Fireball that have ever been printed. X spells, X damage spells have pretty much always been good in Limited, but certainly in the formats that are less synergistic, they're even better. We talked about maybe the games dragging down or bogging down a little bit, and someone might just end up with 9 lands in play and fireball their opponent for 8.
And if Ian takes this, even if people try to push him out of red, he'll have no problem playing that card.
Right.
Ian Suzuki gently takes a fireball. Tim Rivera rips the gloves
He's like,
off.
I don't care. Right.
Yeah, and he takes that Jade Statue. It looks like a gloom, sideboard gloom there for Martin Yuza.
Yeah, so now if you're across from Martin, probably don't go into white.
And we just saw an island 4th picked.
Wall of Brambles. All right, then the corner.
Paralyze is still there. Paralyze, really strong spell.
People are sleeping on Paralyze.
Is that a
8th pick?
8th pick Paralyze in pack 1?
Paralyze, and then
Mons Goblin Raiders.
Mons Goblin Raiders. That might make the cut.
Sure,
Yeah.
Goblin King is, I believe, in the format,
He
right?
sure is.
So here we see some lands, and then Holy Strength, and the Fog is the last pick.
Juza, I think, easily has the most flavorful deck with a Gloom and a Fog.
Those cards are tremendous.
But Paralyze is, I think people, again, if you haven't played with these cards, you might not realize.
Right, Paralyze is like the card Singing Bell Strike. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
Sure. Yeah.
Tarkir block. But it locks a creature down, but the opponent can undo that with a significant mana payment. And here it's 4 mana.
There you see
so that's kind of the update to Paralyze.
But not trivial to pay 4 mana to untap your creature every turn.
Right. All right, here we go. Oh, Animate Wall. Nate Holt and I were joking about the art on that card, Animate Wall. That's the rare. In this second pack, it's like a wall with arms and a face getting mad at this lady. It's so
and a Wanderlust. There's an Earthbind. Is that a Wandering Stream? And that's Pestilence?
Wow,
Stream of Life.
Stream of Life. That's it.
So there are about 10 walls in the set. There's like almost as many walls as there are creatures that can attack through the walls.
Disenchant, very exciting card.
And Grizzly Bears, which barely passes the Grizzly Bears test. So,
right, there's the original Grizzly Bears and the original Grey Ogre. So if people wondered where those nicknames came from for 2/2 for 2 and 2/2 for 3, that's where.
Now, purely on a power level perspective, Pestilence really kind of blacks out the sun here in terms of these other cards. One of the best kind of cards that's ever been printed for Limited at less than rare, basically. It's extremely strong.
We're going to see Psychic Venom get played, and is someone going to be so stretched for playables?
So here's the kind of updated wording, the Urza Saga version of Pestilence. It's basically pay 1 black mana to deal 1 damage to everything, and as long as there's a creature in play, it'll stick around.
Pestilence must be discarded at the end of any turn. So it goes Pestilence, we get a Disenchant, Grizzly Bear. I mean, you've got to jump on any reasonable creature.
Right, just look at this pack. What can attack in this pack for damage? I think Grizzly Bear was the best creature in the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Island is clearly showing a preference for the first picked land from 2 packs.
I think it's sinking into a lot of these guys just how bad these decks are going to be as they look at what they're getting here.
And if your opponent's forced to play with a wall, Wanderlust could be the potential unblockable source of damage. So I'm surprised that's going so late.
Right, Wanderlust is an enchant creature that makes the creature deal 1 damage to its controller every single turn.
And Luis, you see, kind of smartly pick it up there really late in pack 2. So
I won many a sealed deck game back in the day with a Wanderlust, or sometimes it would be your 1 flyer would be the card that you would use in a sealed deck.
And there's a lot of cards like that in this set. There's Cursed Land, there's Wanderlust, there's Warp Artifact. My brother loved all this stuff. Like the way he enjoyed Magic the most was just pile negative enchantments on my stuff and just watch me bleed out. Rock Hydra.
Wow.
Now there's a legitimate thing.
There's a regrowth.
Wow.
There's a Dragon Whelp.
Okay, some real monsters.
That's a Twiddle.
Scrib Sprite's a green flyer.
There's a Hill Giant.
Another.
Oh, this is a great pack. There's your Power Sync, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
This is the deepest pack.
War Mammoth, an absolute monster.
There's Fear. Now eventually the name of
it was the name of a mechanic. Yep.
Yeah. Wall of Brambles.
Wall of Wood.
Oh, that's Wall of Wood. Okay, Swamp.
And Guardian Angel. Yeah, so some real cards here.
Wow.
Yeah, now we talked about all the creatures that can attack are all in one booster. Scrib Sprite's actually pretty good in this format. A 1/1 fly evasive creature. Dragon Whelp, probably the best card in the booster pack. But that War Elephant itself, 3/3 trample for 4 mana. I mean, that is a brutally sized creature in this time and age.
What's the size on the Rock Hydra?
It's XRR, I believe.
So it is the first of the Hydra template.
Right. The first pay as much mana as you can afford to make this creature as big as you want.
And what is
that? You might have thought it was going to be an ROC Hydra, but it's actually a rock.
Like rock,
Hydra.
made out of stone.
And what is that? Blinding Light? I can't
Guardian
recall.
Angel.
Oh, Guardian
Prevents
Angel.
damage.
Okay.
It's XW to prevent damage.
So Martin Yuza is going to go with the Rock Hydra.
Interesting.
Over the Dragon Whelp there.
That is interesting.
And
Wall of Air is the second
Luis
pick. That card is
Vargas
strong.
could not pick that Dragon Whelp fast enough. He was talking a lot about Shivan Dragon being a card he wanted. And, wow, Hill Giant was the next card that went after that. So we just had 3 of 4 red drafters in a row.
So there's Dragon Whelp. It's a 4 mana 2/3 red flyer. It has fire breathing, but if you use the fire breathing more than 3 times in a turn, the whelp burns itself out. And
Yeah, it does. You can't let him get too big for his britches.
That's right.
Yeah, nice wheel there for Tim Rivera with the regrowth still in the pack. Also a Wall of Wood.
Hey, who knows? Wall of Wood could do some good work in this format against
could draw a
the
giant growth out
various
of your
2/2s
opponent.
and 1/1s.
Giant growth, a fine card we could see in a pack here. All right, the players are making their way around, and you see Luis is sleeving his cards as he drafts them. And the judge is doing the pack cracking here. That's Eric Levine. Is that a 2-headed giant of 4 eyes?
4 eyes, yes, 2-headed giant of 4 eyes.
There's Lure. Lure is huge.
So is Orcish Artillery.
Orcish Artillery.
Yeah.
This is a card that Luis Scott Vargas was talking about, and he was like, I might take this over a much more desirable card out of a pack because I think that card could just dominate a board.
Looks like a lot of the similar comments to the last pack.
Like Plains and Forest.
Fear and War Mammoth and Wall of Wood. And Guardian Angel. Wow, it's like a duplicate run of comments.
Orcish Artillery, the original Sparksmith, right? If you play it on turn 3 when you're still at a healthy life total, you can just start mowing down some of your opponent's creatures, and all of a sudden it turns some of those kind of funky cards like Stream of Life or Healing Solve into absolute playables.
Right.
You will suffer 3 damage.
Luis has to decide between that and the 2-headed giant. Yep, there it is.
He is going to take the Orcish Artillery. What was the first pick out of the pack?
Power Sync.
That was the power. Okay.
Yeah, and Luis can be pretty happy to pick up a Dragon Whelp and an Orcish Artillery in back-to-back packs, really solidifying himself in red.
Yeah, and I'm guessing he
is that a second Scrib Scrape to the same player? Or no, he's going to take a second Hill Giant to the same player. Now I think we're going to see a second Scrib Scrapes for Ian Suzuki. So he's the beatdown, if we were wondering.
Right,
Tim Rivera gets a Lure.
He took the regrowth, got the regrowth last time. It's the Lure. Just based on the shallowness of these packs, it's really hard to push people in and out of colors. It just feels like whatever's powerful, you just need to take.
See Martin use it, take a Fear there. Will the Guardian Angel make its way back to Luis? Can he?
It did.
Can he gain? Can you gain life with
Guardian
Guardian Angel?
No, you just prevent damage.
But he can also prevent damage that's done to him with
the Orcish Artillery.
The Orcish Artillery.
Yep.
Yeah, look.
You're gonna have to get pretty creative, I think, in these decks.
Right.
There's Guardian Angel. All right.
By the way, you see that marker right there? That is the wheel.
Wow, fast bond.
A beta wheel of fortune.
Wheel of fortune, and that indicates where the things are going to bounce. Wow, that's a fast bond. Oh, that's a life force. Right down on the bottom. That is a premium color hoser.
Yeah, there's talking to some of the guys that worked on Magic back in the day when they were, discussing this color hoser philosophy. So Life Force is a green enchantment that if you pay 2 green mana, counters a black spell. So if you have this out with a bunch of green mana, just playing black spells is futile. Your opponent will never be able to resolve anything for the rest of the game. Like, why did they make cards like this? And it was because who knows how balanced anything is, and as long as cards like this exist, nothing can go too wrong, right?
Yep, and there's 2 premium limited cards in the pack, and that's Samite Healer and Drain Life. Drain Life would be normally the best card by a wide margin, but we noted it's going to be difficult for someone to play 9 or 10 swamps in their deck. So Sandmite Keeler really stands out to me as like the one card that you really want to put in the deck.
Right, and it looks so...
you see Luis Scott Vargas
fast bond.
taking that fast bond.
Definitely a collector's item, the beta fast bond.
So Luis potentially looking to maybe go green-red possibly, opening up the possibility that he gets Fireball.
Channel Fireball, okay. Sandmite Healer, they're sleeping on it. It's a 2-mana 1/1. It looks innocuous, but it does tap to prevent 1 damage to anything.
Yeah.
You see Martin Hughes.
Martin Hughes is not sleeping on it.
Which messes up combat.
Okay, and then Heyman Patel, who's been playing the game since 1994 himself, he takes a Circle of Protection white, and he's going to grab an island for his collection.
And keeping an eye on those color hosers, you know you're playing against the person across from you at the table. When you see someone grab a Life Force, Abandon Black, Circle Protections are almost always useless, but if you're in that color, it could blank half your deck.
Yuza has the Gloom and the Life Force now. He's ready to hammer some people.
He is looking for a sleight of mind here.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And also, Juza is someone who played back when we had Rochester drafts, and so he'll be keeping very close eye on his opponent.
We just opened a Wheel of Fortune. Wow.
Wheel of Fortune, definitely a powerful card in Vintage. It's a draw 7, which means it's a way to refill your entire hand for at 3 mana. It's just an incredible deal.
4 lands in a row there. Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, someone Page Corbin Hostler.
Shanodin Dryads, Weakness.
Circle of Protection, green.
And more lands.
This is a 6-land
6-lander.
Yeah, Pearl Unicorn. By the way, is that a Karma?
Karma, another savage color hoser. Karma does 1 damage to your opponent for each swamp they control every single turn.
So one would imagine Wheel of Fortune is going to go first from this booster due to its collectability.
But also again, everyone along that side is red.
Right.
And in a format where you're going to be maybe scrapped for playables, you might want to have something like a Wheel of Fortune.
Sure.
Yeah, the format does have Unsummon in it, so you can imagine put your creature back in your hand, and then a Wheel of Fortune as a pretty slick play.
Black Knight.
Black Knight and Weakness are both extremely strong.
Wow. And then I'm not sure how the things have lined up around the table here, but we just saw that Karma get snapped up very quickly.
Right, that's either an offensive pick or a defensive one, and it's hard to tell at this point which one it was.
Circle of Protection green goes to Luis, and he's going to take he's going to take a playable.
Sacrifice? That is not a playable. Sacrifice lets you sacrifice one of your own creatures to generate a bunch of mana. Did he end up with a Fireball? Luis?
Not yet. No. He's got the. Yeah.
I imagine there's some way to turn that into a lethal X spell, but that's about all it's going to be good for in this format.
Cool picture.
Pretty good with Drain Life.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Oh, my gosh. Underground Sea. One of the most exciting cards you can open up outside of the Power 9.
Yep. Played in Legacy and Vintage an incredible amount.
Oh, look at that Terror. That Terror's gorgeous, but Underground Sea just got open.
Who did that? Who was the...
So that was...
I wonder if we'll see someone put white gloves back on.
Yeah.
Was that Ben Stark that opened
I think that is Ben Stark who opened that. Wow.
Well, Ben wants to win. He'll probably just take the Terror.
Well, there was a lot of talk about that.
If this was a no-keepsies draft, Terror is definitely the pick here.
Sure.
But again, you know what? There's a pretty serious prize on the line here. First place in this top 8 draft is going to win an alpha starter deck. There you see Corbin Hostler leaning in to get a picture for coverage.
You see Iron Root Treefolk. We saw Mammoth Spider do a lot. You see the power creep from Iron Root Treefolk all the way up to Mammoth Spider.
Over 25 years, we've given it reach.
That's right. Finally, Wizards has figured out how to make creatures good enough to be playable.
A little sad we haven't seen a Giant Spider yet, but Underground Sea gets a big roar of approval from the crowd. No Goifgate here.
Nope. Basalt Monolith, artifact that taps for 3
Really
mana.
strong acceleration.
There goes the Tree Folk 8. Now here's a creature with banding.
Yeah.
The Mesa Pegasus.
And Martin, if you notice, everyone else is kind of getting excited about some of these highly desirable cards. Martin has gotten a Samite Healer. He's gotten the Mesa Pegasus. He's achieved a few Pearl Unicorns. So he's got a pretty strong fundamental base for a white beatdown deck.
Let's see. COP white, and you know what?
Conversion. Oh, Luis making sure no one casts Conversion against him.
Well, Luis is also beta land flooded himself, so he would have seen it.
Right, he managed to acquire a bunch of beta basics to use in the matches today.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. He's going to be playing in style. That very much wants to win this draft. Some rumors that he'll open up the Alpha Unlimited starter on somebody's stream if that happens, or have that person open it.
Well, we'll see if we can top Underground Sea.
That's going to be tough. That's about
I
probably
thought Wheel of Fortune was sweet.
The third or fourth most desirable card.
Oh man, Nightmare. This was a card I was so excited about when I first started playing. Goblin Balloon Brigade, Psionic Blast.
Yeah, that was uncommon in Alpha. It's a blue spell that does 4 damage to any target and 2 to you, the caster.
There's Stone Rain. I think Stone Rain, by the way, has a chance to be a real MVP in this
That's
format.
right. I cast that card in Modern this weekend.
There's there's Giant Growth.
Giant Growth, a card that has withstood the test
Is
of
that
time.
False Orders?
Yes, False Orders. Now there's a bizarre common.
COP Black. By the way, a lethal combo, COP Black and Pestilence.
Yep.
Where you get to prevent the damage to yourself. Wow, Nightmare rumors that you said something about Nightmare not quite making the cut
In
for
Dominaria, yeah, we tried it at Uncommon. We moved some stuff down to Uncommon, like Thorn Elemental and whatnot. We thought Nightmare would be another kind of cool throwback. It just made people chase after these limited decks that never came together, where you had everyone fighting for the black cards in a draft or whatnot. It was just too much of a trap.
Right. A couple really strong cards here in Limited. Nightmare could be quite good. I wonder if it'll go to the same person who got Drain Life. Resurrection is something that where, we know there's only going to be a few playable creatures, really strong creatures in your deck. So the ability to reuse one is really strong. Obviously, Psionic Blast is the best card in the booster. A really, really strong limited card. And then Goblin Balloon Brigade, don't sleep on it. We talked about Scrib Sprites earlier. Goblin Balloon Brigade in kind of an aggressive red strategy can chip in for quite a bit of damage.
Take a creature from your graveyard and put it directly into play. You can't tap it until your next turn.
Right, so this was the first 4-mana reanimation spell in Magic, and it was in white of all places. This card is also in Time Spiral, so some of you may have encountered it playing Limited in that format.
Psionic Blast we saw come back color shifted as Char.
Right, in the first Ravnica block. But Psionic Blast itself, another card that we picked up for Time Spiral.
Yeah.
So Sea Serpent is an interesting card.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. You're going to track what your opponent's playing. If you can position it against an opponent with islands so that you can attack.
So John took the Nightmare.
Okay.
Right. I mean, obviously you can't just print a 6-mana 5/5. You got to put some kind of a restriction on it to make sure that people don't get out of hand.
By the way, pretty aggro Boris deck coming from Martin Yuza here, who just took Goblin Balloon Brigade. His deck is looking pretty aggressive.
Yep.
And Ben Stark takes the Sea Serpent and the Circle of Protection Black. He's going to be playing Martin Yuza. That Circle of Protection not going to be particularly strong, and I don't think the Sea Serpent is either.
No. Although if Ben Stark loses his match to Martin in about 5 minutes, I think he'll be okay walking away with an Underground Sea.
We'll have to see if Ben can pick up some Phantasmal Terrains.
Oh, yes. That was one of the original combos. There's a handful of combos you want to see. Sea Serpent, Phantasmal Terrain, Thicket Basilisk, and Lure.
Yep.
Is one that we'd really love to see.
You mentioned COP Black and Pestilence. There's also Circle Protection Red and Orchestra Artillery.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, my gosh.
A Scrubland.
We have 2 dual lands that have been opened.
Wow.
We also have a Control Magic. Wow.
So,
and a Prodigal Sorcerer, one of the best commons in this format.
Yep.
Red Elemental Blast. This pack is exciting.
Yeah, Prodigal Sorcerer murders a huge percentage of the other creatures at common in this format.
Yeah.
Llanowar
Wow,
Elves. This
Llanowar
pack
Elves.
is great.
And an Unholy Strength.
And a twiddle.
So Control Magic, I mean, one of the single best cards for Limited you could possibly imagine in this format. Prodigal Sorcerer, as you mentioned, incredibly good. Obviously, we're going to see the Scrubland go first.
Yeah, but the winning versus building your collection decision.
Well, as we know, if you take the Scrubland, you can travel around your area and maybe trade it for a couple Hypnotic Specters, or maybe acquire an Aladdin's Lamp, or perhaps an Aladdin's Ring if you're lucky. I don't know if you read Mastering Magic cards, but it tells you all about how to trade.
So there you see that Scrubland. Pretty deep pack as far as beta drafts go.
That's right. I imagine most of these cards will end up in players' decks.
Yeah, all the creatures here are great, right? Anyone who can get a hold of one of the creatures is going to be really happy.
That Llanowar Elves. And then, Luis Scott Vargas takes that Prodigal Sorcerer.
He takes the Tim. I don't know that he was blue up until that point, but again, he'll probably do whatever it takes to get all the playables into his deck.
Red Elemental Blast. Is that Martin Yuza?
Martin Yuza just picking up another cheap
Iron
Boros
Orcs, yep.
His deck is terrific.
Yep. He's really hoping to wield that Banalish hero, but that might be a little bit ambitious.
Black Ward.
Okay, so Black Ward.
Here we go.
Wow.
He is going to get it.
He's going to get a Bander.
Wow.
This is the card. This is the mechanic he was dreaming about since he qualified.
Yeah, Martin's deck looks great.
And Ben with the last pick, Jump. I think you can get people with Jump in this format.
So Ben just shrugged like, I don't know, I might play it.
Right.
Again, flyers are pretty scarce in this format, and getting to jump a blocker.
Right, the only common flyers are the green 1/1 Scrib Sprites and the white 1/1 Mason Pegasus. That's it at common. There's not even a blue common flyer, which is just crazy by today's standards. There is Jump and Flight.
Oh my gosh! Mox Emerald opened up. Wow! That is a beta Mox Emerald right out of the pack. Oh, this is one of the 9 or 10 most desirable cards in the history of Magic.
That's right. It is like a forest that can be disenchanted.
Wow.
Yeah, no jokes aside, the Mox is part of
And an Icy Manipulator.
Wow.
So whose pick is it?
I believe this is Ben Stark's
No.
pick. No.
Is it? Because he already had...
Oh, no. So Ian Suzuki, I believe this is John Holliday's pick.
So,
COP Red, that might make its way around to Luis
Luis,
Scott Vargas.
right.
Something to keep an eye out for.
So the Icy, one of the all-stars of Dominaria Limited. This is where it came
look at
from.
Ben Stark. Ben's like talking up how good Icy Manipulator is right now. I mean, he's happy actually either way. I think.
Right. You don't lose here if you're Ben Stark. You get one of the Power 9 cards in the Mox Emerald, or one of the best limited cards ever printed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the card
Manipulator.
everyone was really looking to open, and
Ben got the
Mox.
Oh my
Ben.
God.
Oh my gosh.
That was Ben's pick. So Luis took Dwarven Warriors with his pick?
Yeah, but I just kind of feel like Ben's draft is going in so many different directions. He's got the Underground. He's got the Mox Emerald. What colors is he drafting? I'm surprised this Wall of Ice is lasting so long. I mean, that's a really tough wall to get by.
3 mana 07.
Yeah.
There's a Healing Salve. That's a Spell Blast.
How many guesses do you think it would take someone if you asked them what color Wall of Ice is before they got to green?
Yeah.
There's you mentioned Samuel Coleridge, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
There it is.
There's some flavor text right there.
All right, so Ben Stark definitely
The big winner so far.
yeah, with the best vintage deck, apparently.
Absolutely.
Time
Oh my gosh,
Vault.
Time Vault.
Speaking of vintage decks,
These packs have been gas. Is that Cursed Land?
Juggernaut. And you know, you might be used to playing Juggernaut in Dominaria. In the original the original beta, Juggernaut is a house. It is a gigantic creature for 4 mana.
One of the most iconic cards in Magic history, I think. Hurling Minotaur.
Sure.
yeah, it was used in a lot of the early
Oh my gosh, and then
advertisements.
Disintegrate. And there's the Crawworm, also one of people's most desired cards when they first start playing the game. The biggest, greenest creature. in the game.
Hurlu Minotaur not just used in advertisements, but was part of the prize for the first World Championship, if I recall correctly, right?
Was it?
Or maybe it was the U.S. National Championships. They had a jacket with a Hurlu Minotaur picture on the back.
So Juggernaut was so above the curve for creatures even back then that I think it was banned in Standard in one of the earliest iterations of that format.
I believe wasn't the initial ban list Juggernaut, Curd Ape, and Orcish Oriflame? I think that's...
Dingus Egg might have made the list.
Time Vault.
And all right. Time Vault is the pick. And Luis picks up the
Disintegrate.
Disintegrate. There we go.
So Disintegrate going with the Orcish Artillery and the Dragon Whelp. So Luis putting together quite a nice little red deck.
But another Flying Bander there for Martin Yuza.
Yep. The Terror. Look how late that went.
That's a very late thing. There's Crawworm. I like the cut of Ian Suzuki's jib here. He might also have the lore. 2 blue cards there for Ben Stark, who can't complain about anything for at least a year.
Forever.
Forever? Okay. Scathe Zombies for Suzuki. Cursed Land, and then it's a matter of sorting out the basics. Start thinking about picking up the basics you need for your deck.
That's right.
And to clarify, the players will be able to add basic lands as in a normal draft. Well, that was not always the case.
Right, there were a lot of limited formats, pre-releases I went to where you didn't get to do that.
Yeah, you'd get your sealed deck. And
5 land swap.
That was all lands, and you got to add 5 lands.
Trade 5 lands.
Or trade 5
lands, yeah.
By the way, if you go to Gen Con this year,
I will be going to Gen Con.
Well, you might get a chance to commentate another Beta Rochester draft because they're going to be doing this again at Gen Con. There's another Disintegrate, by the way. Is that another shadow up there on the top? There's a Bog Wraith,
lightning bolt
our first lightning bolt.
Sleeper card from this booster is Howl from Beyond.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Anyone who played Seal Deck back then knows you just got to get to some sort of creature advantage on the board.
Yep.
And then you can just finish them off.
Or sneak through 1 Scrib Sprites, right?
Yeah.
And then Howl from Beyond does a really nice Disintegrate impression.
So Nether Shadow is the rare. It's a 1/1 that comes back from the graveyard if there are 3 other creatures above it.
Yeah, so graveyard order will matter.
I think just because of this one card, the order that your cards are put into your graveyard, you can't mess with that. It matters for the Nether Shadow.
And Luis Scott Vargas is, I got to tell you, he's my early favorite to win the Alpha Starter deck.
It was interesting. His choice was Disintegrate or Lightning Bolt. He took the Disintegrate.
Yeah, well, the Lightning Bolt is
I think
lower impact here.
In a modern format, you would take the Bolt over the Disintegrate, right?
In a modern format, you would take the Bolt over the Disintegrate, but I think that a lot of times, Luis could get into these games, navigate situations where he's got like 8 lands out and his opponent's at like 15, and his plan is to just Disintegrate them twice.
Ben Stark just picked up a blue Elemental Blast, again, opposite Martin Yuza, who does have some red creatures and may end up with some red spells along the way.
So far, Martin only committed to white, but certainly looked like he wanted to be in a Boros deck.
Yeah, he has a couple of red cards. Is that Consecrate Land?
Yeah, another Time Spiral reprint. That one prevents your land from being destroyed or enchanted, in case you would want to have that happen.
Okay.
That's Power Surge.
Power Surge. What does Power Surge do? I don't know. There were a lot of White Knight fans in the crowd. We just heard a big cheer. I'm not sure what that was for, but maybe they're giving away some packs.
Phantasmal Forces? No.
So someone opened a Mishra's Workshop out of a random booster.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there have been a lot of pack giveaways.
Yeah, we've been giving away.
I've seen Legends packs given away, Antiquities packs.
I gave away an Unlimited pack this weekend.
Wow.
We dug deep into the vaults for our 25th anniversary. So Power Surge is a red enchantment. I think it's that if you don't spend mana, it's a mana burn card, effectively, that I don't think works very well under the current rules. So no one should be too excited about that one.
Phantasmal Forces is an incredibly strong card here.
Yeah, this is a 4/1 flyer.
Yep, 4 mana, 4/1 flying with an upkeep cost of a blue mana, so it keeps one of your islands busy for as long as it's alive, but that is a quick 4 damage flying on the table.
Power Surge. Before untapping lands at the start of a turn, each player takes 1 damage for each land he or she controls but did not tap. So now you just tap them.
Right, now you just tap them. Before you would have to choose to take mana burn from them or not. That doesn't happen anymore.
Hill Giant for Martin Yuza there. That's a nice creature to get into a band.
Yep, and 2 cards to keep an eye on here are the Fog and the Flight. we mentioned Howl from Beyond earlier. We mentioned things like Giant Growth. People are going to be scratching and clawing to get that last damage in, and Fog is a nice way to counter someone's combat trick.
Wow, did Ben Stark just got a Phantasmal Image? Wow.
Yeah.
Phantasmal Forces.
Phantasmal Forces, yeah, sorry.
And then Flight on one of these Gray Ogres or Hill Giant type of cards can be really effective to win kind of a board stall, and there's not that much good removal to get 2 for 1.
And Ben also takes Jump. That's his.
It's a Flight.
That was a Flight. Okay,
Flight,
that's the Flight. Yeah. He also has the Jump.
Flight is like a rich man's Jump.
Right. So we're all used to playing, Arcane Wing sometimes in Limited, or things like Arcane Flight today, but Flight's kind of the powered down version of that effect. When the board is inevitably going to be stalled with infinite walls and serpents and other things that prevent ground creatures from getting through, you're going to have to build your own evasive guy.
Sure.
So we've seen some pretty exciting.
The Helm of Chatsuk.
Helm of Chatsuk. What does that do again?
It gives a creature banding.
Keldon Warlord.
Wow, counterspell.
Tsunami there above it, the green card, another savage color hoser. It destroys all islands.
There's a red Elemental Blast. There's also a
Frozen Shade.
Frozen Shade that pumps. That could be a pretty big card.
Yes.
If it ends up Ironclaw Orcs. I think there's going to be a very, very aggressive Boros deck for Martin Yuza to get here. And there's a Llanowar Elves.
And already you see kind of the early color pie, right? We see a Nightmare Open to drain life, now Frozen Shade. Black has always wanted you to have a lot of black mana. It's a very demanding color. In this sort of a Rochester draft environment, it's difficult to imagine someone being able to get enough playable black cards that they're going to be able to put enough swamps in their deck to make these cards that effective.
Right, and you're just going to be stuck because they're, at their best, these cards are going to be some of the best cards you could have in your deck, so you're just going to have to walk that line. It's going to be tough leaving a card like Frozen Shade on the bench.
Martin Yuza just took a counterspell. Maybe he's thinking about being white-blue tempo.
Could be, yeah. White's the only color we know he's committed to. Maybe there's a certain...
Well, keep in mind, he knows he's playing Ben Stark.
Right.
And Ben Stark is blue. Yeah. So sometimes you also take a card from your opponent.
And sometimes you just are building your collection. Beta Counterspell is a pretty sweet magic card.
It's important to mention about Counterspell that it only counters the spell as it is being cast. It can't do that later on. Yeah.
Okay.
You can imagine.
Which I've had to explain to many different people. Yeah. Like, attack you with my War Mammoth. I'll counterspell it.
Counterspell. No, it's not currently being cast.
Helm of Chatsuk, one of the least cool
rares
of the format.
There's your kudzu.
There it is, yes.
Wow, there's a Sengir Vampire.
Another true powerhouse. It's in just about any limited format, let alone one with as much chaff as
another
Beta
Fireball, a Dark Ritual, Circle of Protection blue, up there next to the Sengir.
Tranquility.
There's another Paralyze. There's another Tree Folk. There's another Terror. And there is the Forest.
Wow, this is one of the most busted packs we've seen so far.
Paralyzed, Fireball, Terror, Sengir Vampire.
Dark Ritual, not bad either. I mean, honestly, accelerating out, one of your, something like a Sengir Vampire is an extremely powerful thing to do.
You could also get people with your Frozen Shade.
You could also start investing in the Plague Rats business and see how many.
More likely to play a Plague Rat or a Rat Colony.
Right, and Plague Rat, it should be noted, in Constructed back then, was subject to the 4 per deck rule. So.
Well, not back in beta. That 4
Oh, right, it's a good point. It hadn't been invented yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Tim Rivera took that Sengir Vampire. Ian Suzuki happily jumped on that Fireball. And then a Terror for Ben Stark.
So Ben Stark looks like Underground Sea Control.
Yeah, and then there is a Tree Folk for Luis Scott Vargas.
These paralyzes keep going around the table.
He's interested in the Circle of Protection blue here.
Martin with the kudzu.
Yeah, Martin gets kudzu.
Rare drafting.
See if we can see what kudzu does exactly.
It's enchant land. Whenever enchanted land becomes tapped, destroy it, and then move the kudzu.
And he takes the Tranquility as well. Yeah, and the player who gets kudzu gets to choose where the land goes.
Right, we pass it around.
It's still there, right?
We pass the kudzu around. Not a very good card.
All right, wow. Luis Scott Vargas has to feel pretty bad here that someone opened a fireball that didn't get to him.
With 2 disintegrates and Dragon Whelp and Orcish Artillery and a Prodigal Sorcerer, I think he's okay with the things that developed so far.
So you think he's teamer here?
Wow, Earthquake.
Oh, Earthquake. That's a great card. A great finisher. If you
That's
can,
right.
This would be a perfect card for Martin's deck, for example. If he's
More lands. More lands.
All the uncommons in this pack were lands.
wow, there's a Hurloon Minotaur.
More lands.
There's another Howl from Beyond. It's a card Paul really likes in this format. There is a Mesa Pegasus. There's a Disintegrate. Blue Elemental Blast. Crawworm. Mount. And finally, a Circle of Protection White.
I can imagine a lot of these games, as Paul described earlier, coming down to just getting expelled 2 turns in a row. Just seeing how many of them that have been opened.
Well, I mean, there's 3 in this pack.
It puts a real premium on things like Blue Elemental Blast, I think.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned, players are likely to be playing 19, maybe even 20 basic lands in their deck, which makes the X-Spells even more powerful, and it makes things like Circle of Protection even more powerful. We talked earlier about Disenchant. You can't leave your opponent with a Circle of Protection if you're a red out, for example, if your only plan is to just disintegrate them.
Right, so Ian
I'm sorry, disintegrate can't be prevented, right? I can't remember the 2 clauses. It exiles the creature.
It can't be regenerated.
It can't be regenerated and exiles, but it can be prevented.
Luis picked up a curve filler Hurloon Minotaur there for his deck.
Yep.
So the Earthquake make it to him. It was the first pick out of the pack.
Yeah, and that's a powerful card. It just does X damage to each player and to each creature without flying.
Right. Which is most creatures in this format.
Right.
I love the reminder text on Disintegrate. So X damage to any one target, can't be regenerated, it gets exiled, but also make sure to return it when the game is over.
It's not permanently destroyed for the rest of time.
So that was a Phantasmal Terrain. I think Ben
Star got that?
No, I think he may have missed an opportunity there.
For a Sea Serpent?
Yeah. Something card we were keeping an eye out for. Another pack.
Okay, so now we're on...
by the way,
So we're now on the pack 17, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's a plateau.
The original art. These are
this is
incredibly rare.
This is not what the Unlimited plateau
No, they lost the art file for this and had to get new art for it.
Wow.
So it's highly likely you've never seen this art for plateau. Sarah Angel, just a great card here. Don't think it can possibly make its way to Martin Yuza, who I believe is, I think
the third
Haymont
pick.
will take.
I think this is going back clockwise. Is that right?
Only 7 lands in this booster.
It's a pre-built
really
mini-master.
good.
Pre-built mini-master
You
pack.
can cast everything in the booster except for the Sarah Angel with the booster. So that's kind of nice. That's good design. Like, this booster is a ready-to-play deck, pretty much.
Okay, so
Right,
Ian Suzuki.
so we're on the last set of packs going clockwise again.
And he does take the plateau.
Animate artifact.
Thinking about that Time Vault combo.
With Instill Energy as well.
Oh,
I think that was in the pack, because those were in the boosters, and it wasn't Instill Energy.
An island for Ben Stark. Lots of lands left to go around.
Now, what is the hierarchy of beta lands?
It's clearly island, mountain, forest, swamp, plains.
Is that it? Okay. Forest Swamp was, I think, the one I was unclear about. Core Plains.
I think forest has really come up in recent years.
Right. Yeah, people trying to get their hands on some beta forests and beta Llanowar elves to play standard now these days.
Right.
By the way, we're keeping track of every pick in this Rochester draft. You'll be able to. This was one of the cool features of Rochester, is you were able to see everything that happened, and there'll be a spreadsheet, and you can just look at how the draft evolved and what people got.
Sunglasses of Urza.
One of my favorite cards.
Black Vice, one of my favorite cards. One of the early pre-Fibblethip icons of Magic.
The stuffy doll. Yeah.
Eventually got his own card.
That's right, he did.
That was in Time Spiral, right?
Uh-huh. You see Time Spiral and Dominaria both took lots of cues from this original set of cards.
Circle of Protection Red. That's a card Luis Scott Vargas is very interested in.
Invisibility.
This feels like a throat clearing booster for us after so much.
The hype is not real on this one. Yeah. Drudge Skeletons, though, I think is a very powerful card in this format.
And if you can get an Unholy Strength on it.
Right.
Black Vice might not be a joke either. I mean, some people are going to have some really quirky, weird decks, and they might not be able to do anything for a couple turns.
You see Luis Scott Vargas flipping through his cards there.
Black Vice was banned in Legacy for being so powerful.
Tim Rivera, he's been playing Magic since 1995, and he knows a thing or two about Black Vice, and he takes that.
Martin with the Drudge Skeleton.
Yeah. Haymont, he's collecting all the circles. He's looking to go full Wooburg protection.
Luis took Wild Growth, which is a shockingly powerful card by today's standards, but never really saw a ton of play early on.
No. But he can use that to ramp out like his Tree Folk, and again, he has some X spells.
Right. And if he's lucky enough to open a Taiga, get a turn 2 Orcish Artillery, which could really, really turn the game. And that's the only reason he'd want a Taiga.
Right, because Curd Ape hadn't been invented yet.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. That was a lot of people's first deck, right? Taiga, Curd Ape.
Yep. My first standard deck was Taiga, Curd Ape with Black Vice and Winter Orb.
All right, now this is Martin's turn to open a pack.
Time Walk.
What? Take an extra turn after this one.
An effect we usually see for about 5 mana nowadays. There it is at 2 mana. No exile text, no nothing.
Yeah. We see a pretty serious color hoser there, right? That's
Flash Fires.
Flash Fires destroy all planes.
Yep. Obsianus Golem, a real beefy guy in this format. He's a 6 mana, 4/6 vanilla artifact creature, but that is
Look at
enormous.
Martin's face as he just can't wait to take this Time Walk. By the way, he also has a pretty aggressive deck. If he can figure out a way to make the mana work, that card is going to be great for him.
Yeah. I love Time Walk. I mean, in the Vintage Super League, I really just want to play Time Walk as many times as possible, try to flash it back or return it to my hand, cast more Time Walks, ideally with a Planeswalker in play. I mean, Time Walk, obviously, you know, again, one of the most iconic cards ever printed.
People suggesting the Golem.
Fit better in his current deck for sure.
It bans really well.
Yeah, this one's a no-brainer, though. This is why you wanted to be in this event, was to have a moment like this.
Oh, my gosh. Time Walk. Martin User. By the way, Martin User this weekend locked up his 30th Grand Prix top 8 in addition to winning his seat in this beta draft.
Yeah, he is running about as hot as they come.
Well, Ben Stark is sitting across from him, so with a Mox and an Underground.
There's a Flash Fires. I believe that's lined up against Haymont Patel, who is looking to be white.
Ben Stark took the Cop Blue. He does not want that cast against him.
Not after he went through all the trouble of putting that flight on a blue creature.
Right.
Possibly his Sea Serpent.
Oh, now that Martin's got Time Walk, Sea Serpent could be live.
Yeah, you know, that's very true.
It's a proactive defensive draft. In
case you open a power blue card.
Yeah, exactly. And occasionally you would see with cards like that, Island Home and similar mechanics like that, where if Martin, say, is splashing for Time Walk, making sure you don't play that island until the very last second until you cast it, or against land walk ability, Swamp Walk and Forest Walk.
Web, now that is an atrocious rare card. That one blew my mind when I found out that was rare.
Is that Word of Command?
No, that's Evil Presence.
That's Evil Presence, okay.
And Animate Dead, which is quite a good card.
Quite good. Scathe Zombies.
Right,
Another
so
wild
Web would not be a good common in today's limit. There it is as the rare. Castle, a card that my friends and I used to play a lot of. It was very annoying and hard to get through. It gives your untapped creatures +0/+2.
Pretty good with a Sarah Angel.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It says attacking creatures lose this bonus, but in a future printing, that text was taken off. So via Oracle wording, Sarah Angel does get the benefit from Castle.
Oh, interesting. You're right, yeah.
Yes.
Web, Evil Presence.
Neither of which.
When they sent the Castle file out for art direction, they took it very literally.
Yes.
Evil Presence. Target land is now so Animate Dead, going to Haymont.
So Luis got his circle red.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That means he can use his Arkish Artillery with impunity.
That's right. And tap, pay 1, deal 2 damage. Among the most powerful combinations you can put together.
Yeah, best Barksmith ever.
And importantly, didn't want anyone else to have access to that.
No,
Cop
absolutely
Red,
not. Cop Red would just negate all of his premium draft picks in this draft. Just always look at that. That's not even a disenchant. That's Healing Salve. Evil Presence has just been turned sideways so no one accidentally picks it.
Oh.
And you're an old Rochester draft. You would have been.
Yeah,
you touched it. You took it. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Now we're not playing with prison rules here.
But if you touched a card, that was yours. And there was some.
If your hand came off of it, yeah.
There were some pretty heated PTQ top 8s that occurred under Rochester draft formats.
Well,
there is Nevernal's Disc.
It's a 4-mana artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped and has 1 tap. Destroy all artifacts, enchantments, creatures.
And there's the Basilisk
as usual
to potentially go with that lure we saw earlier.
We have the Thicket Basilisk lure combo live. There's another power sink.
I think no matter what deck you're drafting, the disc is obvious pick. Is
that what card is that? Mon's Goblin Raiders again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Still waiting on that Goblin King.
Again, the largest creature in the pack has 2 power. It costs 5.
I think Basilisk has super Death Touch though.
Right.
This is before there was Death Touch. So if you can get a lure on that, while your opponent has a ton of
it has nothing to do with dealing damage. If you get into combat with it, you are dying at the end of combat. And as such, the Basilisk was the 2nd or 3rd pick out of the pack.
Poor feedback.
Feedback makes like an enchantment have an upkeep of 2 mana or something like that. I mean, it's just an atrocious. Oh, it just does 1 day. Oh, of course. Of course. It's the 4th one of the Wanderlust crew.
Sure, you can keep your enchantment out for the next 20 turns, but it'll cost you.
Not bad to get on a Circle of Protection in a long game.
That's right. I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of those kind of cards killed someone.
I expect one
in today's draft.
I fully expect one.
Or Cursed Land.
Oh, yeah, Cursed Land also very good. And by very good, I mean in this very specific
There's
format.
Jade Idol.
Jade Idol.
Earth Elemental, a finely statted creature.
Wall of Bone, Ivory Cup, Island.
Stream of Life.
Another X-Spell.
Unfireball myself.
Earth Elemental is just a house in this format. I mean,
this thing is
really tough to deal with.
Although the walls in this set are just so unfair against the creatures that it is as awesome as Earth Elemental is. Wall of Bone just effectively blanks it for 1 mana a turn. So what does Jade Idol do? That's one I honestly don't remember the rules text of.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think it redirects damage or something like that.
See if we can get a look at it here.
Whenever the players are asking for Oracle wording.
So that's Jade Idol, where you have the Jade Statue.
No, it's not Jade Statue.
No?
Jade Monolith.
Jade
Monolith.
There we go.
Sorry to...
The original designers were not so prescient as to have a legacy Spirit or Arcane mechanic in the alpha set.
Oh, so you have to take the damage dealt to creature on yourself instead. But you also have to take all of it, which is a
so
lot.
it's personal incarnation,
Yeah.
the artifact.
Yeah, you actually got some early trash talking too in there. Take all of it.
The Ivory Cup and Throne of Bone cycle was a really good early skill tester for people, because gaining life is something that when you first play Magic, you just think that must be so powerful. Doesn't take very long playing with those cards to realize how bad they are.
So this card was in the very first set of the starter deck that I ever opened in Revives, and it just gave me this incredible. Well, we get the Lotus chant as the draft comes to a conclusion.
I think they got to reverse this pack.
It's Verdure and Enchantress.
I mean, I'm pretty excited about it for Verdure Enchantress.
Ice Storm Clone.
No, yeah, that's an exciting one.
Uncommon back in the day.
I love the art on Clone. I love the flavor of it, and the two guys staring at each other. And
there's also an Ice Storm there to continue the minor land destruction theme. We saw Stone Rain and some
the
cursed lands and some psychic venoms.
That's right. And apparently the ice is green theme with Wall of Ice and Ice Storm.
There's another Pestilence. There's another Fireball.
highly doubtful anyone will be able to take advantage of Verdure and Enchantress's ability here.
You know what? Ben Stark has a lot of enchantments.
Yeah?
It is double green to cast, though.
Yeah, and
we might
Box
have time.
Emerald aside.
it's an 0-2. It takes quite a bit to return.
Heyman Patel also has all the COPs at the table, other than Luis's COP.
So Ben passed on the.
Is that a second Pestilence over there?
Yeah, I think that is.
Was it Ian that took the Pestilence?
Yeah.
Martin with the Mons Goblin Raider. He's staying on target with his aggressive in quotation marks for this format.
Conservator there from Luis, I think probably an underrated card in this format as well. We mentioned repetitive sources of advantage, and Conservator, I think, an extremely inefficient way to do it, but could be playable.
It's like 2 mana and tap to prevent 2 damage or something.
I think it's prevent 1 damage. I'm not 100% sure.
Lands going, invisibility, and the last pick here is a mountain. Yeah. So who do you like at this table? I got to tell you, I mean, Luis Vargas' deck looks terrific to me.
Absolutely.
This is the last pick.
Right.
Oh, that is
an anti-card. That is Dark Pact.
That's Dark Pact. That is some beautiful Richard Thomas artwork.
That's Quentin Hoover.
That is Quentin Hoover?
Quentin Hoover, yeah.
Phantom Monster.
Oh,
wow.
I should have named that in my cards that I'm really excited to see early on. That I love a Phantom Monster, and that's a premium card.
4 mana, 3/3 flying, full stop. It's a flying hill giant.
More Edgar Allan Poe. Our first Tranquility, I think.
Another Prodigal
Sorcerer.
There's been Tranquility.
Phantom Monster, Prodigal Sorcerer, and what else is even good here?
Iron Retrieval.
Yep.
Iron Retrieval, Giant Growth.
Oh, Giant Growth.
Probably pretty good here. We do have at least 2 Plague Rats now.
And a clone.
And a clone.
Wow.
We can do it.
Wow. And we did see Rat Colony earlier on stream, so.
Oh, that's a great pickup.
Could that Prodigal get to Luis?
Martin just takes the rare.
Heymon's going to take that Tim, and Luis is going to take
Giant Growth.
Giant Growth. COP blue there for Ben Stark. He's like, which island art is that?
Power Leak. That's the one that makes your enchantments cost more mana.
Wow, he would have to take all of those under the old rules. That's a lot of cards. Now, this has been a super exciting draft. We've seen 2 dual lands opened. We've seen a Mox
Three
Emerald
dual
Open.
lands.
Three dual lands.
Dual
Right, I'm
lands,
sorry.
yeah. Time Walk,
Time Walk, Time Vault,
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune, absolutely. Never Know's
Fast-
Disc, which is a super cool card.
Fast Bond.
Yeah.
The crowd goes wild. They'll remember this for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking to someone, at the 50th anniversary of Magic. We're going to go back and look at this.
When we're all wheeled out here.
This is never going to. These events are not going to happen again 2 years from now or a year from now. It's really just during this 25th birthday celebration for Magic that we get to have this really, really unique opportunity.
Right. And as you mentioned earlier, it will happen again 2 months from